It is 6 in the morning. Before a single conscious thought has fully formed, a hand has already reached for a phone resting on the nightstand. The eyes have not yet adjusted to the light. The mind has not yet woken up in any meaningful sense, and yet a decision has been made, executed, and completed. Somewhere between sleep and awareness, something inside chose. The question worth asking is simple and unsettling. Who or what made that choice? This is the paradox at the center of human experience. We walk through our days convinced that we are the authors of our actions, that every decision, however small, passes through the courtroom of conscious deliberation before being approved. But decades of psychological and neurological research suggest something far stranger. Much of what we call choice is not chosen at all. It is executed by a vast, silent system operating beneath conscious awareness, a system so efficient, so automatic, that it rarely announces itself. Think of the mind as an iceberg. The visible portion, the part we call I, the deliberate, reasoning self, is only a fraction of the whole. Beneath the surface lies a far larger structure. Patterns, instincts, conditioned responses, and emotional shortcuts built over a lifetime of repetition. This hidden mass does not ask for permission. It does not wait for conscious approval. It acts first, and the conscious mind, more often than we would like to admit, simply explains the action after the fact, constructing a tidy narrative of intention around a decision that was already made. This leads to the first truth. The brain often initiates action before conscious awareness catches up. Neurological studies on decision-making have repeatedly shown a measurable gap between the brain preparing to act and a person becoming consciously aware of deciding to act. In that gap lives an uncomfortable possibility that the feeling of choosing is sometimes a story told after the fact, not the cause of the action itself. This does not mean free will is an illusion. It means that the architecture of choice is far more automated than most people realize, and that real control begins not with the decision itself, but with the awareness surrounding it. The second truth follows naturally. The mind defaults to the familiar, even when the familiar is harmful. This is the comfort trap, what psychologists call status quo bias. The brain is not designed to optimize for growth. It is designed to conserve energy and avoid risk. A familiar discomfort will almost always be chosen over an unfamiliar opportunity, because the nervous system interprets unknown as dangerous, regardless of potential reward. This is why people remain in stagnant routines, unfulfilling habits, and self-limiting cycles, not from a lack of desire to change, but because the deeper architecture of the mind is quietly voting for safety over progress every single time. The third truth lives even closer to the surface, yet remains just as invisible. The inner narrator shapes reality. The voice that runs commentary throughout the day, labeling, judging, predicting, doubting, is not a neutral observer. It is an active architect. Every repeated thought becomes a groove, and every groove becomes a path the mind defaults to without resistance. A person who silently repeats, "I am not capable," is not simply describing a belief. They are reinforcing a structure that will filter future decisions, opportunities, and even memories to match that narrative. The mind does not just record identity. It builds it, sentence by sentence, through repetition. This is the fourth truth, emotional hijacking. When a strong emotion ignites, the brain's alarm system can override its reasoning center almost instantly, flooding the body with urgency before logic has a chance to weigh in. This is why people say things in anger they don't mean, or make decisions in panic they later regret. The emotion itself is not the enemy. It is ancient protective machinery doing its job. The danger lies in mistaking the emotional surge for the truth of a situation, rather than recognizing it as a temporary state to move through. The individuals who seem to possess remarkable self-control have not eliminated this hijacking. They have simply learned to notice the gap and to wait, just long enough for the alarm to quiet before they speak or act. The fifth truth is quieter, but more confining: the identity loop. Every person carries an internal definition of who they are: capable or incapable, disciplined or scattered, lucky or unlucky. This self-image does not simply describe a person. It filters what they're willing to attempt. Opportunities that don't match the existing identity are often dismissed before they're even consciously considered, not because they're unrealistic, but because they don't fit the story already being told. A person who believes, "I'm not a disciplined person," will unconsciously gravitate toward evidence that confirms it, while overlooking the moments that contradict it. The loop closes itself, and without realizing it, the same chapter is lived again and again under a different title. The sixth truth extends beyond the individual mind into the space between people: social mirroring. Human beings are wired to absorb the emotional tone, beliefs, and standards of those around them, often without any conscious awareness it's happening. Spend enough time around complacency, and ambition quietly dims. Spend enough time around discipline, and standards rise without effort. This is not weakness. It is biology. The mind was built to synchronize with its environment for survival. But this also means that the people, conversations, and content a person allows into their daily life are not neutral background noise. They are active forces shaping the very mind making decisions about them. And this leads to the seventh, final, and most important truth: the power of conscious override. Everything uncovered so far might sound like a verdict that the mind runs on autopilot, defaults to comfort, narrates its own limits, gets hijacked by emotion, traps itself in identity, and absorbs its surroundings without permission. But none of this is a life sentence. It is a blueprint. The same repetition that built these automatic patterns can be used, deliberately, to rebuild them. A pause inserted before reaction. A new sentence repeated until it becomes belief. A different environment chosen on purpose. None of these require dramatic willpower. They require awareness, applied consistently, until what once ran unconsciously begins to run by design. This is the turn the entire journey has been leading toward. The mind was never the enemy. It is simply a system, powerful, patterned, and most importantly, trainable. The 7 truths uncovered here are not reasons to feel controlled. They are instructions for taking back the controls. So before this ends, one question is worth sitting with, not to be answered quickly, but honestly. Of these 7 hidden forces, which one has been running your life the longest without your permission? And what would change if, starting today, you decided to run it instead?